Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the Sports Report After Dark. I am your host, Seven, and with me always is the biggest dick in sports, Dan the Dick Warner.
Hey, hello, everyone. Good, man. How are you? We're doing great.
Oh, man.
Wearing baseball jerseys, like a couple of fucking grown men wearing baseball jerseys.
Like a couple of grown men wearing baseball jerseys. It's a great description.
I'm eating pistachios. You guys should definitely... We have a... If we can get like a sponsor spot for pistachios, that'd be great. Boobstachio.
Boobstachio. What a week it has been, man. Lots going on. We're going to be talking about what happened at the Oscars on Thursday on First Generation Dad. I know you're going to be a part of that. Will and Shaw from Geek Gauntlet, and obviously Will's on the Sports Report with us as well. Josie's going to be there. We even try to get Kay and Pun in on the action so we can just dive deep into that. So definitely check us out. That'll be on Thursday at 10 Eastern on the Pinfall Network, right here on Pinfall Streams on YouTube and Facebook.
Go ahead. Who's the guy that's always on Geek Gauntlet that's doing a different show?
Shaw. Shaw co-hosts Geek Gauntlet with Will. He's the one that actually seems to have, for some strange reason, which he doesn't reveal his sources, because when you reveal your sources, they're no longer sources. Shaw has a lot of like inside stuff on geek stuff, and that's why they built that podcast that they have on their following on William Morgan Media Twitch page. And he wanted to have a conversation because I know you don't watch the host chat for us, but we were talking about it in the host chat today, and I threw the idea out that we could go on to, there's some mental health stuff that we can talk about with that situation too. And so I was like, hey, let's do it on First Generation Dad. And Shaw was like, I want to join us. Okay, sure.
Sweet. Sweet. I was about to call that motherfucker out, being like, what the fuck's so special about him? You can't, just because he's not multidimensional, he can't switch over shows. But no, he's got the inside scoop, and he's a prominent member of the Pinfall family. I understand. I was making sure because we don't get talked about like that. I switch over a show and nobody fucking says shit. I don't care.
I mean, sometimes they'll say stuff like, why are you switching to a different show? Go away. Things of that nature. But I mean, none of the stuff that we say about Shaw. Yeah.
Please fuck off. Stop following me around.
Yeah. You hear that from a lot of women too, though. So, so
unbelievable.
I wanted to start tonight. There was an article that was posted on ESPN.com today. The NFL has expanded the Rooney Rule. And in addition, adding on to the Rooney Rule on top of the previous requirements, every team will now have to have a female coach on the offensive side of the ball
in the NFL
2022 in the NFL. Now it's coaching. On top of the minority coach requirements, they also need to add a female coach on the offensive side of the ball this year. So we'll start out with this. Do you think this is something that is going to make an impact on diversifying the coaching in the NFL?
Oh, it definitely will make an immediate impact, yeah, because somebody's gonna hire a female coach again. I mean, there's already a female coach, a couple of them in there. Assistants?
Yeah, there's a couple of assistants. There's one, I can't remember what her name is. I want to say her first name was Katie. But she worked for the 49ers for a while. She came over and worked with the Chiefs for a while last year in training camp. Good reputation among players in the league. I mean, I wanted to see her get a full-time slot, but I don't think she got a full-time slot with Kansas City, but I could be wrong.
I guess here's the tricky part for me. There's never how many women have ever played in the NFL?
0.
Okay. How many women have ever played actual professional football? That's not one of those smaller semi-pro type leagues that really doesn't attract that much talent. Like one that's on the okay. How many of those women have played in a WNBA like football professional league?
None that I know of. I mean, and I could be wrong. Yeah, none that I know of.
Zero. I mean, they just haven't because there isn't one. There isn't a league that's that high up as far as they're taking people directly out of college, and it's a huge competition step up and everything like that. There's nothing like that for football, right? So I think the only problem is going to come in because in basketball, there's the WNBA. In baseball, there's the Olympics. I guess they play, softball and stuff like that. There's no level of football because that many women don't play football, and that's not because they don't want to play football. It's because it was a man's thing, and they trapped it out, and that's really what it was. And it's just now coming to be a thing, which is awesome. But I think the only problem they're going to run into is there's going to be dudes who are, and this is not saying anything about our outtake on what this is, but there's going to be dudes in the NFL who completely discount and disregard a lot of those female coaches' opinions because they have never played in a professional football league. Am I wrong about that?
I don't think you're wrong, but here is my challenge on that. Because I do think there's going to be those macho guys that are like, oh, you haven't played this game, you don't know.
In football, no way.
Right. But there are some of these guys, a lot of coaches that they didn't play, they coached. That's what they know. My question would be, as I look at this, because I'm not saying I don't want women coaches in football. I think having a diversity of thought is a very valuable thing in any organization. But the one thing that I would be concerned about is the experience that it requires to be able to effectively coach at that level. Because I'm not saying women can't coach, but to be able to understand how to handle those egos and exist in that locker room and maintain these guys understanding that they need to respect you. A lot of that comes with experience. When you're not a former player, you have to have experience and be able to prove that you know what you're talking about to these guys because their standards are not low.
Right.
And so and you may know this better than I do because I admittedly don't watch very much college football.
Okay.
Do they have college coaches more and on the college level? Do they have coaches more prominently in common? Like, do they have more female coaches in college right now than the NFL?
I mean, no. I mean, okay, so probably total wise because there's way more college.
Oh, okay, teams. Yeah, total wise, but in prominent organizations, are there Okay.
Nope. In the top 30, 25 teams in college football, there isn't one. The top 50 perennials, there isn't one that I know of, unless this happened very recently. I'm pretty sure there isn't one. As far as there might be a couple scattered throughout, but there isn't any more, than there isn't in the NFL.
And
I think there's only one.
And here's the thing: is there's the concern that I have with this position because I don't want these young women that get into this role, which I absolutely think should happen. I'm don't get me wrong.
Right.
My concern is from a standpoint of, even if it's a small coach, because they're trying to say it's on the offensive side of the ball, a running back coach or a wide receiver coach or an O-line coach, they are involved in discussions as far as evaluating talent, discussing schemes. Now, yes, the coordinator and the head coach are going to have primary control over that, but these individuals are consulted and they need to have information to relay to those coordinators and coaches and head coaches, so that the players in their position group can be effectively utilized. Right. And being able to effectively do that comes with experience. Now, I understand that, we can get a lot of these internships and fellowships to get these individuals experience. And I absolutely think that the college level needs to be getting more women in coaching so that we can start to develop the pipeline, because it needs to happen.
Right.
I'm not mincing words on that. It needs to happen, but I also don't want these individuals to be made to look bad because they don't have the resources and experience that male coaches have been able to get because of the resources available to them. We need to get the resources and education available to them first, so that when we transition into the professional level as a coach, they can succeed.
Right. And I think it's so tricky though, because of kind of what I talked about first, is there isn't there's job experience is so important. And it's literally almost like this. If restaurants didn't for some reason allow men to work in them, okay, at all until last year or something, or a couple of years ago, there's not going to be a talent pool that exists with any men in it. Does that make sense? Like, there's not going to be people who have managed restaurants, people who have served tables, people who have bartended, people who have cooked. There isn't going to be people who have done that because they haven't really been allowed into the company yet, or into the
fold, right?
Yeah, so they haven't been allowed into it yet. So it's going to be very hard for them, and it's going to be very hard. And in this particular case, it's going to be hard as well because you have these dudes who obviously at that point in your career, you are not, like, macho is probably the wrong word, but there's a lot of testosterone driven type shit in the NFL because it's such a dangerous, violent game, right? You have to be violent. Right. You have to be violent to play in the NFL. A lot of positions, obviously. You don't have to be a violent person, but you have to do violent things that involve a different mindset. And that can also be construed on some cases to be a misogynist. It can be a misogynistic viewpoint from some dudes, right? It can be. I'm not saying all of them. Probably 90% of them, probably not. But a couple of them are going to give some blowback. And honestly, if I was being coached by a female, my only thing would be that you actually haven't, if you've actually played organized football in a league against other women, then yeah, you're 100% like, you know, I feel like that's qualification enough. And you've played the game before against competition that was yours. That's qualification enough. If they've never played, I don't know how you could give any other advice or coaching without just being an X's and O's person. Does that make sense? Because there's definitely people who could, you know what I'm saying? Like,
no, and I see what you're saying, but there's a few different things. Cause like there are female football leagues that exist.
Oh, I know that.
You know, and
if they played in those, then
they don't get the television that they deserve. But, you know, or any at all, really, like, unless it's like, you know, a lingerie league or something like that ESPN jokes about on a late night sports center. Right. You know, you don't really see an exposure for those athletes. And so it is possible that some of those that have that experience could jump into this role. And that would be fantastic because that's somebody that does have understanding of mechanics.
Right.
But the other side of this is the other individuals to develop the experience to be able to evaluate talent and, you know, create drills, you know, and evaluate their position group that they're over, which is where it's going to start. You've got to be able to learn and understand the role. You've got to, you know, the terminology, being able to evaluate film and know what you're looking for when you're watching film. There's so many things that coaches have to be able to understand and do. Right. And this male-dominated league has, because that's the way it's been, at every level, men can get experience coaching position groups, learning to evaluate talent, learning to watch film and what specifically you're looking for when you're watching film to evaluate your players, the opponent's players, and all of that. So when you don't have those are core pieces of coaching. And the problem is when you have somebody that steps onto the field and doesn't understand these mechanics and know how to be able to look at, arbitrary example, DK Metcalf. Okay. Just as an example, look at DK Metcalf and go, look, when you try to do this move, your footing is fucked up. And that's why you don't have a high success rate. Change your footing and do this and be able to demonstrate it and talk about it and give that specific feedback. How are they going to know to catch that? And I'm not saying that they can't just pick it up and learn it. Women are very remarkably smart individuals and the world is better with them in it. But they also haven't been given the proper resources to learn those things because any woman that wanted to go into coaching, go into basketball, go into women's soccer, something else that they usually did or were good at in sports. Right. Right. And that's kind of the weird part about it is like most of these coaches do come and yes, there is guys who coach right now who didn't play professional football. Obviously, like Bill Belichick did not play in the NFL. But he played in college football. But the thing is too, it's kind of ridiculous on the other side, just to play devil's advocate, like with myself kind of, because I'm saying this, that they're not going to appreciate like these factors because they haven't been there before or whatever.
but like a scientist can study something and know a lot about it and not be able to do it. Do you know what I'm saying? Like a scientist.
No, and that's the thing. And there are women that know a lot about football that have never played.
That could coach it because
they've
watched enough. They've watched enough live. They've watched enough through sport or through tape. They've studied the X's and O's. They've studied everything that you can do as far as rules wise goes. And they know just as there's women right now who know just as much as Bill Belichick does about football, for real.
Absolutely.
There probably are some. And
the concern is the talent pool because you have 32 teams. Is it possible across the entire country that there's 32 women that can, coach to one position group and then build up from there?
Yes.
Of course.
Right.
But, statistically, there should be. But again, without having a lot of active experience in the coaching role, it's going to be very difficult to transition because it is a different world. Right. Being in it versus watching it and being in analytics. Like Mina Kimes. Mina Kimes knows more about football than a lot of men. And she could absolutely coach football.
If she wanted to.
If she wanted to. But there's still going to be a learning curve from going from looking at it from an analytical side to being able to look at footwork or, hand positioning.
Right.
Or just body mechanics in general, because that's an important part of position coach work is working on body mechanics.
Right.
So, and she's going to have to learn the ways to do that. And coaching is not like being somebody's supervisor.
No,
it is, but it's not. And so my concern is that they throw this rule out. And I like that the NFL is at least trying.
I do too,
that as well.
But this rule is, I feel like they jumped the gun a little bit on it.
I think it's a little misguided because I think that what they should be doing is investing in coaching and programs to develop female coaches.
Yes. Do that first to set a basis, because you're doing a disservice to the women who want to go into coaching by throwing this rule out this close or this fast. You know what I'm saying? Because they clearly do not have the experience to be even acknowledged by their colleagues at that point. You know what I'm saying? Like, they're not going to get the experience because there's been no programs to have that experience. So like you have to, I feel like they jumped the gun on it big time. I feel like
I think you invest and start to build a talent pool, and you start with incentivizing teams to grab. That way, the ones that you can get that are ready, because I'm not going to say that just because they're a woman, they're not ready. There are probably some women that are ready. Yes. But you don't want to put teams in a corner and say, hey, you have to do this because you're going to have a team put a coach on a roster and keep her in the office.
And
she doesn't get experience. It's not fair to her because it's what she wants to do.
Yes, exactly.
So if you develop a program that gives these coaches, these future coaches, the ability to get more experience, and you incentivize teams to grab these coaches that are ready and get them into the active coaching pool, you're going to have a longer impact because you can also use female coaches from other sports to mentor these young women.
Right.
To develop these things. And so I love the attempt to try and diversify the thought in the locker room, in the film room, in the coaching room, all of it. But I think there are better and more effective ways to get positive, lasting results than what the NFL is doing.
Right. I think your term misguided is the best way to go. Just because, like, in my opinion, I know that it's ridiculous to think that a female couldn't actually, by X's and O's and by implementation of coaching an NFL team, couldn't do it. I think that's obviously ridiculous to even think, right?
Absolutely.
I'm just saying, and we talk about the relationships with people and psychologically people on the show, right? How are you going to do that in a situation where it's all men and you don't even have a professional sport that mirrors that. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, so immediately some of these men, and this is, once again, I'm going to just lay it out. This is not what me and Seven's personal opinion is of it, but you're going to have men who are not going to appreciate or listen, or they're immediately going to discount that woman's opinion because they're going to think she's never done it at even close to the level that they've done it at. Right. Does that make sense? And like, they're going to think that. It's just going to happen.
Right. And here's the comparison that I think that we're kind of working towards. And I just had this thought, and I think that you'll agree with me here. If Diana Taurasi was to retire tomorrow from the WNBA, and then Wednesday morning, she signed a contract as a coach for the LA Lakers.
Wouldn't be surprised.
Not a single player in that locker room would give her a problem.
Nope.
They would listen. They would respect her, and they would stick with her. Yep. But that comes from, like what Dan was saying, a comparison to where you at least have an understanding of the sports. Now, yes, the men's game has some different mechanics, a couple of different rules, and some things like that. So there's still a learning curve. But the learning curve for Diana Taurasi to coach in the NBA
would be nothing.
Versus,
I mean, a couple of nuanced things that are, you know,
right.
Really...
It's not going to be smooth. I'm not saying it's going to be smooth, but it's an easier transition between the two.
She would draw up a few more alley-oops in the NBA, but that's about it. She'd just be drawing up a few more alley-oops. That's pretty much, you know, not bounce passes for the layup. She'd be drawing up alley-oops instead of that. That's literally one of the only things that would be different about it. It's the same.
Absolutely.
Sport, and she played at the same level. And I'm not even saying that, like, I think that women can absolutely understand football in its X's and O's and in its actual basis, right? As good as men can. Just as good. Like if you're looking at a guy like Andy Reid, who does a lot of play calling stuff and does a lot of technical things where he calls X's and O's, there's women who could be just as good at that. Absolutely.
And also a lot of women, their brains are a lot more analytical in just a natural occurrence than how we are as men. The advantage that provides them in a sport, especially with the fact that in most modern day professional sports, barring like soccer, analytics is key.
Right.
Those computer numbers tell coaches a lot of things. Right. And so when you look at the, when you look at it from a professional standpoint, the ability and the skills, the natural skills that benefit coaches would absolutely be there with female coaches. I have no question about that.
Yes.
But the resources to be as deeply read into the mechanics and requirements of the game haven't been available to them as they should have been, but they haven't been available. And so it puts them at a distinct disadvantage, and it's not right. That's why I think there should be development programs so that they can get into that role with the actual knowledge and skill set required that they don't have because the resources aren't currently available.
Absolutely. And I think what we're talking about here really is the fact that we understand that women could absolutely do that job, right? They could do that job. But at the same time, if you think when it's okay, so something can look good on paper and they could be able to do it as far as what you have to be able to do. What's not going to be written on the paper is the way that these males react to a female in that locker room being on a coaching a dominant level over them in any role that they take is going to be a complicated thing. That's going to be an absolutely complicated thing. It's going to fuck with a lot of camaraderie. It's going to fuck with a lot of the chemistry of these teams to do that, because you're going to have guys who are like us, who I feel are rational, who cannot just discriminate on somebody immediately because of they're a woman or they're black or whatever. Right. And that's the originality of this rule. But you're going to have dudes who are just immediately, dude, I'm telling you right now, I've seen these guys. They're immediately going to discount anything that woman says because she don't know shit. That's exactly what it's going to be. It's got to be that.
The prime example, Mina Kimes calls out the bad play by Jimmy G. And the first tweet out of Jeff Garcia's page was, "Why are we letting a woman commentate on football?" The thing of it is, with athletes, especially professional athletes, these individuals that are in the top 0.5% of athletes, they have a very high rate of testosterone. They have spent a lot of time hearing that they're the best, and that they're the man, and they're the greatest, and all of this, and that male ego and that machismo gets so fucking inflated. It's like a hot air balloon.
It's intense.
And then you have this rule that gets imposed where it's like, no, you have to work with this chick now. That's a disservice.
Good luck with that. To her,
exactly.
Yes, it makes it unfair for her, for them to force anybody to do that is kind of weird, for one. Like,
yeah,
I get, so let's not compare this to what the Rooney Rule was actually made for, and the fact that black men or women could be considered for NFL jobs. Like, but at the same time, like, dude, black men should have been in, like, we don't have candidates sitting here backing up to be, female candidates sitting here backing up to be NFL coaches like you did with black guys. For real. You did not have even close to that. There's not even close to that. So the Rooney Rule's really split off into a whole separate thing here, because it's
about diversity as a whole, not just black coaches anymore.
Right. And they did make it like part of the Rooney Rule, right?
Yeah, that's what I read. That's what it said, is it was like an addendum to the Rooney Rule, and like an add-on to the Rooney Rule. I could be wrong.
Well, no, I mean, you're probably right. But it's just apples and oranges to the actual Rooney Rule, though. You know what I'm saying? Like, it really is. Like, yes, is it about diversity as a whole? Yes. Is it the same kind? Yeah. Is it the same kind of diversity? No, because you had guys you had black dudes lining up, like, clearly playing the game 70%. I mean, the NFL 70% black. You had them backing up in these coaching roles to be head coaches, for one. And now we're just doing coaching at all. And we're doing women who there isn't that much of a, you know what I'm saying? Like we talked about earlier, the pool is not as big, for one, not even close. And I feel like they just jumped the gun on it, is my main point here. I feel like this is way too fucking early for this. This is way too early.
The thought is in the right place. We need to get more, we need to get more women in coaching. But what they have done, I fear, is going to cause more problems than it solves with actually getting women into higher places in coaching. Because you're not going to have, like, if we have these coaching programs built up, I don't know if maybe we, back it up into college programs or the USFL and the XFL.
Right.
Utilize these different leagues and fund it. Yes. The NFL, you got to put some fucking money into it.
Sorry, but you guys don't make enough. I know.
Yeah, I know it's hard.
Yeah.
Get these individuals some relevant professional experience. Because you and I both know that, like, if somebody, if especially with, like, the deal that the XFL has with the NFL on testing rules, if Roger Goodell went to Dwayne Rock Johnson and his business partner, his ex-wife, and said, hey, part of our program, we want you to help us develop female coaches. Do you really think he's going to balk at that idea? Do you really think she's going to balk at that idea? They would be on that like a pack of dogs on a three-legged cat.
Right.
And so, and I understand that those are different games, but just like we've talked about, it helps build some credibility, because you can't be playing in the USFL or the XFL right now and think that you're hot shit.
Yes.
It is, in a sense, a more level playing field. It gives the league a little bit more money to make sure these women can get paid for their time and to developing their experience, as they should. And then that you build a pool. You put money under the table to colleges. Or, hey, colleges that sign female coaches, we'll give them an NIL deal.
Right.
Something, so that they can still be okay financially, because they deserve to be, and get them into the environment where they can properly learn and develop this time in an environment where they're not going to get as much pushback and distractions as you will in a pro locker room.
Right.
Because they deserve that ability to walk into a pro locker room without so much pushback simply because they're women.
Yes. 100%. That should have been in, but it's so weird though. Like, the whole thing is so strange, because not only, so in the athletics world, it is dominated by men. Men's sports make the most money. They are the most dominant. The men get paid more than the women in sports because of viewership, because of merchandise, because what their product is putting out is more fruitful financially than the women's is, correct? I mean, in sports, that's down the line. That's not even me making an opinion. That's a fucking fact. It is. That's how it is. But the thing about it is, that's why it's so confusing, is like how these guys are ingrained in that fact that they do play a sport that is dominated by men, that actually factually is dominated by men because it should be, because they are like, now we're just getting into something else with the whole, like we've talked about the,
well, as far as the player side is concerned, I get that part.
Yeah,
and it's there. A lot of safety issues come into play when you put women on an NFL field.
It's not going to happen.
I'm more open to discussing things with basketball and baseball, but that's a completely different episode. We've kind of talked about that stuff before.
Right.
But the situation that you come into is, while the NFL's heart is in the right place on this, it has huge potential to set them up for failure instead of success. And that's what I don't want. It's like with the Rooney Rule at its core, teams have to hire one minority head coaching candidate whenever they're hiring a head coach. They have to interview. They have to interview a minority hire and give them, and it's supposed to be give them a legitimate shot without, anytime you're looking for a head coach. On paper, that looks great. But the problem with that is now you have individuals like Brian Flores, multiple other black coaches across the NFL have commented on getting sham interviews.
Yes. It happens. It's going to happen.
You can't tell me that the sham coaching position for females isn't going to happen on some teams.
Yep.
And that is a complete disservice to what we're trying to achieve.
You are literally making these women probably get actually hopeful, because why would you not? Even if she's completely aware that it's going to be a sham interview, that's still like an NFL team called you. They're going to make these women actually physically go to the fucking facility. Do you know what I'm saying? And do an interview in which they were never going to get the job. That is fucked up, for one. It's fucked up. They do it to black dudes all the time. They do it to black guys all the time in the coaching interviews. Those guys know they're not getting the job. Like, why are you're just making these people do these things that are pointless. That's the biggest problem with it. And not without getting too political, isn't kind of this the far leftist problem, sort of? Like, this is kind of what they do, is like, you know what I'm saying? Like, well, everything needs to be equal. So if everything is equal, dude, it's going to create some weird stuff, especially in sports like this. Like, things that, dude, there are things that women can do that men can't do at all. And I don't expect them to be like, yeah, every time that we do an interview for this job that only women can do, or not, you know what I'm saying? Like, only women can do it at a high level, we need to interview a man. Like, I'd be like, no, because the women can do it at a higher level. Like, why would I? Does that make sense?
Yeah, you in those elite athletic situations, you want
that's the only one. That's why it's so tough to talk about this, is because, guys, I'm talking about elite professional sports right now. It is, men are better at it. Okay, I'll go ahead and just say that they're better at fucking sports. That's a clear thing, guys. Like, you don't know that.
There's a lot of what that comes from. And my theory on that is because statistically, yes, you are correct.
I wouldn't even say they're better. Sorry. They're just built. They have a natural advantage in the first place. So obviously the best of the best is going to be better because they got a better start. Like, well,
and the other part of it is because of the fact that things like being a soldier, doing more physical things, has been traditionally a part of what men did in our human, in the human culture as a whole, for most societies. I know there's somewhere that's different, but for the regular heroes, we're with that men's bodies have evolved to those physical demands. Now with where we're at now, we're kind of going backwards with some of these fuckheads, but whatever.
There's a theory of evolution.
Right. And so because of the unfortunate truth that women were stymied and prevented from those things, they have not been able to develop those instinctual things that come from being at that level.
Well,
and
Tone, would you even say it's an unfortunate truth, though? Because it's not really, because those women did other things completely evenly that still helped the overall outcome of, you know what I'm saying? Like 40,000 years ago, there was other things they were doing. It just wasn't physicality wise. You know what I'm saying?
Right. In what I mean by unfortunately is because there is benefits in having a wide diversity of different things. But when you have an entire group of people that don't get the opportunity to develop around that and have those things come out, the opportunity to be able to do that thing from that group of people, the talent pool is smaller. It's just like we were talking about with women coaches. Okay.
Right.
So when you have that small talent pool because the opportunities weren't there to build it, it puts them at a supreme disadvantage.
Yes.
They don't get to develop because if you don't have programs in the high school level for it, and there aren't very many programs at the college level, the opportunities at the professional level are going to be very slim.
Yeah.
And so the disadvantage that these individuals are being given is they don't have time to develop. I could have as a high schooler, when I decided I didn't want to play sports anymore because of my knees, I could have transitioned into being like a student coach, manager, I guess is what they call them. And then gotten into high school, gotten into college, maybe done like a, some type of a degree in sports, coaching or management or whatever, and supported, a couple of the teams and developed and learned those things as I went up the ranks so that when it was time for me to be like, hey, I want to be a coach in the NFL, I have developed that experience.
Yes.
Women haven't been given those opportunities.
No.
So, but that's those things are available to men as a whole. They're not to women. And so the opportunities to learn at those levels. So I talked about there needs to be programs to develop those things. So when
their path was very hard. Their path has been very hard.
So with the lack of opportunity for them to develop over time, that's why we're sitting at this spot now with a very low known, I'll clarify, known talent pool.
It's a low talent pool. I'm going to go ahead and say that we know.
It's a low talent pool because of the opportunities that they have. Yeah. And so when so part of the reason why things are male dominated is because that was the rule. That was the resources.
Yeah.
They weren't there for,
No.
That's what frustrates me about the whole thing.
But dude, it's also based in the fact that the income, the revenue, the merchandise, the tickets, everything historically in sports as a whole, since Americans started playing sports, since anybody, I mean, not anybody, because I don't live in other countries, but American sports, at least, since it got started, every single aspect of it being popular, highly watched, lucrative, makes you famous, blah, blah, has been dominated by men because the product of all of this is more watched. And I'm not even sitting here saying that it's better. I personally think that men's sports are better to watch and to spectate on, right? But that's got to be some of the basis of it, correct? Honestly. That has to be, that's why women are shunned out of the talks about being coaches and stuff most of the time, because their sport isn't as popular as their counterpart men sport, correct? I mean, that's got to be a lot of it. Back to seriously, back to the basis style.
I think that's one of that can be considered a core argument. But I think that the opportunity has also been very restrictive.
That's what I'm saying. Because of that, though.
When you look at, let's say, for example, let's say this. We were talking on Sports Report earlier about the fact that there is the potential in the next 5 to 10 years that we're going to see women as players in professional baseball. We already seeing women coaches.
Right.
I can't remember her name, but she is a coach for the AA Yankees squad. Actually just took a batted ball out to the face the other day and is still coaching, doing well. Respect to her. That's what you got to do as a coach. Wow. So, I mean, that's, but she is an anomaly at this point because women haven't gotten that chance in baseball. When we look at what happened with, if you've never seen the movie A League of Their Own, it's one of the greatest baseball movies. Tom Hanks is in it. Gina Davis is in it. It is absolutely a classic. It's one of my wife's favorite movies, actually.
There is crying in baseball, by the way.
I saw their Amazon is doing A League of Their Own series, and Nick Offerman is going to play the head coach.
Yes.
Yes. For the team that they focus on, and I think that's great. I love Nick Offerman. Great. But the women's professional baseball league lasted, it was like 3 or 4 years.
Uh-huh.
Ended once World War II ended, men came back, started being able to play baseball again.
1 second. Go ahead.
If women's professional baseball, not softball, because they are different, we were talking about that earlier too. If women's professional baseball had been allowed to continue, the men's professional baseball rankings today would have, even if the league stayed separate gender-wise, Major League Baseball today would have more female professional coaches because those opportunities were there for them to develop and learn. Now, yes, you can have some of these female coaches that coach softball that are going to be able to, make an impact in baseball as well, because there are similar mechanics, but obviously the actual playing mechanics for things like pitching are different. I like that baseball is already ahead of this in getting active coaching with females in the minors and building up those pipelines so that we see that develop. This is what the NFL should be doing. Utilize these lower levels. Heck, throw money to the Arena Football League to, get some female coaches some experience so that instead of these individuals being thrown to the fire without the resources that they should have and the experience that they should have to be at that level, they're not being, they're not being thrown to the fire. They're walking into the door with the experience that they should have so that they can do their job effectively. And even if they had the experience, they're still going to be those male athlete players with the machismo and the I'm a guy and I'm not going to listen to a woman. Those things are going to exist, but that exists in general. It's stupid. It shouldn't, but it is. And so, but I think if you give with what the MLB is doing and allowing these women to coach down in the minor league levels and develop, and they're grabbing some people that have been dominant softball players because there is some translation. Major League Baseball is going to see a more effective use of female coaches. The NFL is going to fuck it up.
Yeah. Yeah. And sorry guys, I had to step out there. I was going to talk to Tony before this. We should work in some promos or something on here, because outside of wearing like one of those NASCAR suits where I can just pee in it, I drink a lot of beer during this. So it is.
Oh, I didn't even realize we've been going for 45 minutes. I'm sorry.
It's all right. It's all right. I was going to talk to him before that because at some point, you guys know what I'm talking about. I drink a lot of beer during this. I'm talking every 15 minutes. I'm like, all right, kind of got to go pee. 45 minutes is like a long time. I was drinking beer during the sports report the whole time.
Yeah.
It's all right. It's all right. Hey, we're wrinkling them out. This is what experience is all about. You live and you learn.
You live and you learn.
And I just installed a bathroom in my garage here, so we're good. Just put it right
says he installed a bathroom. It's really just a bucket that he pisses in.
It really, really is. It's got a toilet seat screwed on top of it, so I feel at least, and then it's got a little tube that runs outside. I don't shit in it.
Well, that's for the best,
right? I mean, because how's it going to get out the hole? I could waffle it down there, just stop it on the.
Stop! No,
but no, I'm not going to do that. Hey, I want to give a shout out, by the way, in this randomness. Shout out to Nate from eBay, new fan. Talked to him about my eBay account the other day, and he was watching our show on the phone with me while he was waiting for his computer to load up my account. He was watching the show. I can hear us in the background because so he should be on here. I don't know if he's watching right now.
But if he catches it later because he's actually sleeping like a normal person, yeah. Hey, Nate.
Or he's working at eBay, man.
Yeah.
So, what's up, Nate?
But no, it's and obviously, like we've said, there needs to be more women in coaching. Diversity of thought is important, and one of the ways that you achieve that is by opening up the ranks. So that means we do need to have women. We do need to make sure we have black guys and guys of other races.
Yeah.
People of all races. There's diversity in thought is valuable because our line of thinking as individuals does heavily weigh on our culture.
Right.
And for most people, the race that you have has an impact on your culture. And so
Huge.
when you open up to that deliberately, and I say deliberately for a reason, I'll tell you guys a quick thing. I worked for Progressive Insurance for about 2.5 years. The CEO, wonderful woman by the name of Trisha. She was one of those things where they kind of send out. It was one where they had actually took us off the phone to watch it, like a video that she had made. So I was, they were paying me to not have to take calls and deal with stupid fucking customers. So I jumped on it. And she was talking about the reason that they purposefully look for different cultures in hiring, because they want the diversity of thought in that position that they don't currently have. Because when you open up the diversity of thought, the opinions, the ideas that come flowing with different individuals working together really starts to explain, you get greater results. And I saw them do that purposefully and effectively. It's one of the reasons why, even though I don't work for them anymore, I still have great respect for them as a company, because they did that very well from what I could see. When you have companies that are just doing things because they're being forced to, we see the counter to what we're, the bad part of what we're talking about,
right,
which is not getting an actual thing, just being stuck in an office, or, hey, here's your payroll, go home and shut up, don't talk about it.
You're just on the payroll, so we can show that you're on the payroll for political purposes.
We'll let you help us out during summer camps and OTAs and stuff like that, but you're not going to have a real job. Like,
no,
that does them no good.
It does them bad, is what it is. It's actually negative.
It is an extreme disservice, but there are teams that are going to do this. That's my concern. I don't want that to happen.
So everybody can go, oh, they have a female coach. She actually coaches. And people like us can go, no, she fucking doesn't. She doesn't. And you guys are actually killing her fucking career in coaching by saying that she coaches right now. Because
go ahead.
Yeah, it's just not true. It's just,
it gives ammunition to the individuals that are choosing to do that to her in the first place, because, oh yeah, these people think she's coaching, so it must be fine that we're doing this because we're meeting the requirement that the public wants us to meet.
Yeah.
It's fucking disrespectful.
And they'll almost do that as spite too. Like, oh, we have to hire one, or we have to interview one, huh? Yeah, you'll see. Here we hired one.
You think women that are wanting to get into coaching are lining up to work for Dan Snyder, the Washington Commanders? No. Are you serious? It's and that's the thing, is, like I said, the idea for the NFL to put more emphasis on purposeful diversity is a great train of thought to start. The problem is the engine is not on the right track at this point.
No.
And until they find that switch box and get moving in the right direction, it's going to be a disservice to these individuals. That's why, like I said, with developing, like with what MLB is doing, with allowing these women that are coming into baseball coaching, develop in the minor leagues and learn it the right way, they're going to get a fair shot at coaching in the majors once they've earned that experience, just like any other coach does.
Yeah. It needs
Women are not going to get that same opportunity, and that's why they will have a harder time. They will have to work harder to succeed, which, yes, they're probably used to it because they've done it. That's the way that it's been for women, unfortunately.
Right.
But what we're seeing is another organization that's doing exactly that to them and making it harder for them to get that opportunity.
Right. Yep.
Or be successful in that opportunity.
Yeah. Some of those, I feel like some of the far, and like I said, not to get political, like some of the far left ideas are so good at heart. Like the basis is, they're like, I get why they're doing it. Like, okay, good. Yes, that should be a thing, but you can't just implement shit that doesn't have any basis to it already. Like, you have to start at a smaller level. You can't just go, oh, the NFL needs to hire. That's literally like saying, like, the biggest companies in the world at doing the best thing, the biggest corporations, have to hire people who have no experience doing that job. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, it's just such a strange thing. Such a strange thing.
And that's the thing is part of the problem that we're already seeing, and it's been the struggle with the Rooney Rule, is you're telling, as even the analysts will say, it's hard to tell billionaires who to hire.
Yeah.
which is exactly what you're doing here. And that's why you're going to see this. But if you incentivize it and motivate them by making sure that these individuals that you want in these roles have the resources to develop to be ready to be in those roles, then what you're going to end up seeing is owners that are going, hey, yeah, this is the right choice. Because not every owner is Art Rooney. It's unfortunate because he's a hell of an owner, hell of a businessman. Or what he was, sorry.
Businessman, main word there though.
Right.
And
he had a great vision in starting to be purposeful about diversity. The problem is there's so many things that people are like, oh, hey, we're just going to do this because they think it's a quick fix. You can't go for the quick fix. You have to make purposeful steps in the right direction. Diversity, fixing the issues that we have in diversity is not about flipping a switch. It's about changing the actions and building forward so that those actions that you were doing previously are no longer a problem.
Small steps.
Small purposeful steps to build that line so that when it gets to where it's supposed to go, it's ready to be there.
And with this rule, the NFL is making a giant leap where it is not ready to make a giant leap. They're making that's a giant leap. That's a giant leap from like, oh, well, we have a couple of women coaches. Now everybody has to interview one. That is a huge leap. Like make a couple of small.
No, not just interview, hire.
They have to hire. That's even fucking worse. That's even fucking worse.
Yeah, not just interview. They have to hire. That's the way I read the article. And again, could be wrong.
Where are they getting their fucking numbers on how many female coaches there even is at a high school level? Because, dude, there ain't many. Like, for football, there isn't many. In football, there is not fucking many. I'll tell you that much right now. The numbers is overwhelmingly men. I would say 99% probably. Easily. 99 out of 100 easily. If 99,
it's like 99.5. It's such a small number. The number of female coaches in the high school level is smaller percentage wise than the number of athletes that will make it pro that play at the high school level.
What are the chances then of that best 99 out of 100 woman being the best coach for that position? Is it 99-1? Is it it's 99? There's 1%. So they're going to hire somebody who literally has a 1% chance of being the best person to be because they aren't in the role yet. That's the whole thing. Like you just made such a giant leap into like, oh, we have a couple of female coaches. Now we all have to hire one. Like, what are you talking about? That doesn't make any sense. And I hate it more because it's going to discourage further women from doing it at all. It's going to. Watch. Anybody who's ever had an experience doing it's going to go, wow, fuck. Outside of the woman who does it in San Francisco.
She was with San Francisco, Kansas City. I want to say her first name is Katie.
She was a soccer player.
Yeah, she was I believe she played on the women's national team as well, didn't she?
Has legitimate athletic acumen. Absolutely. But she's done it well, but it's like there's just not enough. You can't. I get interview at this point. I think honestly,
it's Katie Sowers.
Katie Sowers. Sauers, right? Sauers.
It's the regular spelling. Sowers.
Okay.
And Katie has a great reputation in the league. And yes, for some of the things that she has done in soccer, there is some carryover. I'm not going to deny that. But she's now been between everything that she's done, the fellowships, the little bit of time that I think she spent one season or half a season on the 49ers coaching staff. She's done some stuff with the Chiefs as well. Like it has taken her so much time just to build up to that. And she still hasn't been given serious consideration. Now with this rule, somebody will grab her. I'm going to bet it's going to be Kansas City if they haven't already.
Whoever works for her right now, that's going to be their hire. And it should be.
Yeah, I mean, she deserves the opportunity to coach in the NFL. And like I said, players love her. She seems to know what she's talking about. I have no problem with it.
Give me a long time for this head coach.
Absolutely.
Even a coordinator. Like an offensive or defensive coordinator. Top 3 positions, give me a long time. Unless they force him to do it, and then you have somebody in a position who's clearly unqualified.
Any top 4 positions, coach, offensive, defensive coordinator, special teams coordinator. You're not going to see him in those 4 roles for a long time.
In a perfect world, would there be? Yeah, but we don't live in that.
Absolutely.
Clearly we don't.
And again, it comes down to a previous lack of opportunity. And I don't have a problem correcting action. There's nothing wrong with changing course and correcting ourselves to do better. We should be doing that every day as humans. That should be your main focus
With
every day,
everything.
is to be better. It's just to be better and learn and grow.
To be less wrong.
Exactly.
Be less wrong about things.
And so as you're pivoting away from this abhorrent misogynistic behavior towards making progress and starting to better even the weight on the scales, you do it with a more purposeful path, and you set these individuals and the individuals that will come after them up for success. But if you put them on a course that is absolute chaos, full of too big of leaps and bounds and unrealistic expectations, you're going to have so many that fail that it's going to discourage others.
Yep.
It's going to make teams. You're going to have teams that are like, look, she wasn't ready. We're going to hire that female coach because we have to, or we lose a pick or whatever. But she's just going to have a desk job. She's not going to be out on the field except maybe during camp to help move equipment around.
Yep.
And then any woman that gets that job, any woman that gets that job is stuck because they're not going to be building the experience that they need to work into those higher roles, which they should get the opportunity at.
You're gonna extinguish the fire in these individuals. That is one of the main things they're gonna need to actually excel at that job. Does that make sense? Like, you're gonna actually kill. Yeah, you're gonna extinguish the fire in them that they need to actually be successful in the job they're about to take. So you're literally just it's just a fuck up. It's just a big circular of shit is all it is. It's gonna make it worse. You're making it worse by doing it this fast. I didn't know it was hiring, dude. I'm actually blown away by that. That's hiring. Is there even 32 women in legitimate college football coaching right now? I would say probably no. They haven't even coached in college level. It's probably,
if they exist, they haven't been talked about. And so I'll say it's realistically, with how many college programs there are across the country between D1, D1A, D2, all of these others.
32.
There's probably at least 32 individuals at the college level right now that are coaching. I mean, I would hope so.
And statistically, the same amount of those women are shitty at their job as the men. Statistically, the percentage wise, there's the same amount. Like 32% of them just can't fucking coach. And if you're going to literally have to take every single one of them, basically, that means a bunch of them aren't going to be able to fucking coach. And it's going to discourage the women behind them that can coach. And we're just going to go in a fucking circle. It's going to be terrible. It's Absolutely. So fucking stupid. It's so stupid. And
it's a disservice to them. It's a complete disservice to them. And again,
puppet jobs.
It is. And this is when you really break this down. It almost seems like it's a company doing something to look pretty that's not actually going to amount to much of anything. And I would hope that is not what the NFL is doing here. But when you dive deeper into the problems with this, that's what they're doing.
That's what they're doing. Absolutely. That's what they're doing. I don't even think that's in a debate. That's what they're doing. They're doing it to look good politically and look good in public relations and look good in the media and for their image, so that more people will watch and more women will watch the NFL because they're like, oh, they let women coach now. That's all they want, dude. It's all about this right here. It's all about this right here, and it's all bullshit. Like, if a woman can coach in the NFL, then fucking let her coach in the NFL. We don't need to make rules that force them to be in coaching, because a couple of these women aren't even going to really want to do that job. They're just going to get contacted, and they're going to throw a bunch of money at them. You know what I'm saying? And these women are going to be like, okay, well, and then that just fucks it for everything, because
you're making $60,000 a year as an assistant tight end coach at your college. We need a female coach that knows somewhat what they're talking about to bring into our program. Here, we're going to give you $200,000.
200, minimum 200 just to come in here and basically be a figurehead for what our stupid corporation that we work for wants us to do. Okay.
And some of these organizations are even going to be much worse about it and make a lot of empty promises. Because the smart women are going to be wondering which organizations And I would say probably any of these women, because if you're coaching at some point, chances are you're smart.
No, and if they've been able to weed their way through the bullshit to get to the level that they're at, they're probably smart. You know what I'm saying? Like that's
exactly. But then you have this situation where these women are, of course, going to be skeptical. Like, how hard it's going to be for the Commanders to hire a female coach.
Oh God. After all that.
Do you know how hard it's going to be for the Patriots to hire a female coach?
That's the second one I was thinking. Yeah.
I mean,
how about the Browns?
The Browns, the Browns, especially after what Deshaun, and they have to be an offensive coach. You're going to be working close to Deshaun Watson every day.
I mean, let's not be wrong. I don't think Deshaun Watson's like, I don't think he's like sneaking in dark corners, like pulling women off the street. But at the same time, like I get what you're saying. Yes, I know what you're saying.
Like, and to be able to get that opportunity to coach in the NFL, again, totally should happen. They should not also be in this work environment. We're also trying to figure out what's going on with Deshaun Watson. Am I actually getting a chance to coach on the offense, or am I just going to be somebody that gets paid to sit here?
Right. Flip the roles real quick, Tony. I don't want to be in that situation. If I'm, you know what I'm saying? Like if there's an all female professional league that I'm like, that most all of them have ever like, I mean, maybe that just makes me a coward, but like, I don't want to be in that situation mostly, unless it's like something I gotta really, really, really fucking want that shit. Like you gotta be driven as a motherfucker to want that.
And those women, and I know, and I have no doubt that those women exist, and I can't wait to see what
they do.
But at the same time, how many women are going to be willing to put up with these things after everything they've already had to deal with at the high school, college, JUCO, whatever level that they're coaching at? Now they have to deal with all of the bullshit that comes from being a coach in a $1 billion organization around a bunch of guys, some of which are going to be macho puckheads.
Yep.
And
to get, Zach, like you said, to get to that level, everything they had to go through to get to the pinnacle of their career, and it just be a shit show. How discerning is that for somebody who actually wants to do that? And then you get up there and this whole thing is just a fucking sham, because that's exactly
their dream
what it
is just destroyed. Exactly
what it is. It's a fucking sham. Yeah. It's a bullshit job that they're literally, they're making you hire women for bullshit jobs on the top of it. That's all there is to it. That's what this is.
It's not right. It really isn't. No. And it disappoints me, but hopefully we're wrong. I would fucking love to be wrong, and that these women are given legitimate opportunities, and that we start to see dramatic change in the coaching ranks in the NFL. Because there are some coaches that aren't talented enough to be at that level, that need to not be coaching anymore. Perfect opportunity to fill that slot. But realistically, it's not going to happen.
No, it's not.
It sucks.
Yeah. The Miami Dolphins often the O-line coach or the D-line coach doing the coke and talking to the chick, you know what I'm talking about? One of my favorite videos ever. He's just blowing the coke before the coaches meeting. Like, you're working with guys like that. So good luck with all of that. He's like, good God. He says, I wish I wasn't doing this off this book right now. I wish I was doing it off your pussy. It's like, good God. What the fuck is going on? Like, just blowing minds of coke. It's like, you're going to work with guys like that, just so you know. He's a real champion.
And he's a prick to the guys too. They just put up with it because they want to be able to play.
Exactly.
Think anything. These other guys that are having to be around all of that misogynistic behavior, that's going to happen.
The smart and rational men that play that sport don't like him either. Just know that. I guess if that's any consolation, we know too. Like, we know too that he's a fucking piece of shit. It doesn't help you at all.
Right. How many players that played for Bill Belichick actually liked him? Not very many, but they all respected him.
Bill's a different kind of cat though, because I think Bill professionally, like with the roster and everything, he's a fucking savage. He'll cut you because it's not good for the team. But overall, I think he's about his players a little bit. You know, I don't think that he stays. I don't think he's a bad guy. I really don't. I think that he's
a transactional coach. I think that I will say, okay, so that may not be, he may not be the best example. I'll retract that bit, but let's the Urban Meyer, and, you know, we've talked about Urban Meyer, and, you know, especially even more stuff has come out about him being a complete prick and kicking players and insulting players and making these guys break down and cry. Those guys are all over the NFL. Those guys are all over professional sports.
Absolutely.
I'm not condoning their behavior, but they're just because of the fact that all of these assholes also have a name in the industry, nobody's going to do a fucking thing.
No. Laughing. He's up there laughing. Yep.
Laughing like you just got like you just watched Will Smith. Slap Chris Smith. Laughing like you just watched Will Smith slap Chris Rock so hard his name became Chris Pebbles. Like, I mean,
I hope that Chris Rock just does like hours of material on that, and I hope that he absolutely fucking buries Will Smith with that shit. I really hope that he does. I hope it somehow negatively affects Will Smith's career, so that he understands that is not the correct way to go about that. That's a comedian who's on stage in front of 20 million people. What are you doing?
Performers ever.
If you want to hit him, go to the fucking after party that you're clearly going to go to and hit him at the fucking after party, you fucking pussy idiot. What did you expect? What did you expect Chris Rock to do? You want him to hit you back? He has no idea what the fuck is going on.
He handled that shit like a pro.
He did. That's the best night.
I'm not condoning Chris Rock's joke about alopecia. It was disrespectful. It shouldn't have been in place. But when we look at the process for how that joke got to being in front of Chris Rock, you need to understand that there is very little chance he actually wrote that joke. A comic from SNL probably wrote that joke.
Most likely.
It passed through network's approval. It was put into his line. He read it before and was like, okay, yeah, whatever. He's a comic. He doesn't give a fuck.
No. And Jada Pinkett Smith, you should realize you're lucky. You're fucking lucky he didn't go after your goddamn entanglement shit. You're fucking lucky for that shit. For real. Lucky. That he didn't go after that.
Chris Rock has over an hour, has done multiple jokes about Will Smith and Jada Pinkett Smith's entanglement.
And that
multiple hours. There were so many worse things he could have said.
And worries me about Will Smith is if he was straight faced the whole time, like she was, and like rolled his eyes and stuff at the comments or at the jokes, and then went and did that, I wouldn't be as freaked out by it. What freaks me out about Will Smith is he was 100% fine with all of those jokes. Like he was supposed to be laughing with him, blah, blah, blah. And it almost makes me feel like they went there under the assumption, or at least he did, that like, oh, if he makes a joke about us, like, oh, let's just laugh it off. And then when he saw her reaction and whatever she said to him, then it became like a just instant snap. Dude, he obviously snapped out. He snapped out. He's yelling there. He is fucking angry. That is not I don't think that's acting. I think he was completely serious.
He was, and that's the thing is I'm not going to I'm not going to say anything against a man trying to defend the honor of his wife. Every man should do that. But you don't assault a performer on stage. You got a problem with something a comic says, you grab them after. Or, you know, in their case, he literally could have just gotten up, walked to backstage. He's allowed back there, and slapped the shit out of Chris Rock back there.
Hit him back there.
Chris Rock has the chance to square up, has the chance to talk about it like a man and defend himself. At that point, it is a completely different conversation.
Yep. What it looks like to me is that, and we won't go this much further because we're going to talk about Thursday, but what it looks like to me on the top, and I'm sure Will Smith didn't obviously want to make this happen, but it looks like Will Smith went up there and did that knowing that there's no way Chris Rock is going to do anything back to him. You know what I'm saying? Like, I know that he wasn't thinking that in the moment, but that's what it looks like on the backside, is that he's on fucking stage in front of 20 million people at one of the most watched events in TV, right? And how's he going to defend himself? You're beating a defenseless person. You literally you bitch slapped a defenseless man.
Yep.
That is the ultimate level of disrespectful.
Yep.
Every time you hear the word disrespectful, just think of that Chris Rock fucking taking that shit like fucking like Foreman, just fucking sweat just flying off his face and shit. Like that's what disrespect is. That's disrespectful. Go back, like you said, behind or after an after party and confront him like a fucking man and let him square up to you and you guys can fucking fight. Then that's great. But don't do that.
It's completely different conversation at that point.
That's different. And then we would hear about it probably, but it wouldn't be as big of a deal because he didn't do it on stage in front of 20 million people. Like it makes me just feel like he's a fucking coward.
It's like, you know, when we talk about, so there was that, so Marquis, it was Marcus Morris. Wasn't Marcus Morris the one that had to miss like 40 games because of the fact that he got hip checked by Jokic?
He didn't miss.
Or was it the other one?
Yeah, it was like
it was 30 plus.
It was Marcus. It was
Marcus Morris. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Marcus Morris missed it was 32, 33 games, something like that. He missed a lot of games over it. Because of that hip check.
He's injured?
Yeah, he was saying he was injured from that hip check. He missed like 30 plus games after that.
He did hit him defenselessly. He didn't get hip checked. Jokic came up behind him and fucking pushed him as hard as he could.
Or push him. Yeah, sorry. Okay, but I mean, it was at its core a defenseless act. That's why Jokic got suspended. Yeah. That's why he got ejected from the game.
But he knows Marcus Morris can get back up and fucking fight him right there if he wants to. He knows that.
Right. And you know, but the thing of it is, you have, you know, we all know that Marcus and his brother are dirty players. They get dirty shots on guys all the time.
I love it.
They love to get dirty shots on Jokic.
They're new school Charles Oakleys.
You know, so that was, in truth, Jokic sending a message to both of them that he's done fucking around.
You're going to fuck with me, I fuck with you back. Yeah.
But when that happened, everybody was so mad. Oh, he just hit a defenseless player, all of this other stuff.
They don't know the history.
They don't know the history, right? You know, but you can't just get violent because somebody says mean things either. Like,
no.
How many school shootings have we seen from bullying, where these kids are just bullied mercilessly, and a majority of it was, now, yes, when it comes to bullying, there's some physical stuff too that usually happens. But a lot of that is just verbal
words.
That's how they break you down. It's just, it's words. And so if I, as a person, lost my shit because of the bullying that I received and I got violent and assaulted somebody that was defenseless, I'm the bad guy.
Yes. Sticks and stones may break my bones, but words will always hurt me, should be the actual saying. Because it hurts people way worse than any kind of physical, right? It does. Right. But then they're taking it back into like, you're going to go back and do the same thing, which is.
And it doesn't defend hateful words.
Absolutely not.
It doesn't, you know, and stuff of any hate, like really, we joke about certain things on occasion and stuff like that. But when it comes to stuff like that, there are going to be people that are not going to like things that you say. I am a comic. I tell jokes on stage that sometimes people get offended by.
No shit.
You know, if you go to an open mic night for stand-up comedy, any of those guys that have been doing it for less than a year, guess what? You're going to hear dead baby jokes. You're going to hear jokes that are racist and homophobic. You're going to hear rape jokes. I mean, you're going to hear so many of these, not even low-hanging fruit, rotting fruit on the ground type material as these individuals develop and find themselves.
Yes.
And one of the things that
even after they develop.
And even after they develop, I mean, look at guys like Tosh.
I love
Look
Tosh.
at guys like Jeselnik. I mean, both great comics, but if we're going to start punching comics for things that they say that people don't like, there's a lot of comedians that are going to have to line up.
You can't.
You can't.
I think it takes away from, if you don't like it, then stop watching it. You know what I'm saying? Like, if you don't got to go to the fucking guy's show. If you don't like what Daniel Tosh says out loud, then don't buy a ticket for his fucking show. Don't watch his special. Is anybody forcing you guys to watch Daniel Tosh? Like, if I want to watch Daniel Tosh, I can just bring him up. If I don't want to watch Daniel Tosh, I don't have to. I have the ability to do that, correct? Just like I don't want to watch a fucking televangelist ever. I don't want to watch them, and I never do. Right? But
it's
if I want to, I can bring it up.
And Will and Jada could have left, could have gone out in the lobby, or again, could have gone backstage and confronted Chris directly.
Or just sat there straight faced and let him finish the thing. Yes. And did it at a different time.
There's so many better ways to handle it. And yeah, we're spending too much time talking about this. We're going to talk about that in more detail on First Generation Dad on Thursday. That will start at 10 p.m. featuring pretty much everybody that does stuff at Pinfall. As we talk about this and this issue and the real impacts it has. Because of course, celebrities are humans too.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's the Pinfall Royal Rumble for the Will Smith shit. Happening on Thursday. Happening on Thursday. Every member, there's 30 of them. Who's going to get thrown over the ropes? I didn't know Michael Buffer's brother was here. It's okay, guys. Buddy. I know that I should do it professionally. It's all right. Just anybody who's out there that knows it, it's fine. Should give me a couple beers before, just like Buffer has. I need the hanging microphone, Tone.
You do.
I need the hanging, so I can just grab it and
just work in your garage, rig a stand from up in the rafters there, and just bring it down.
It's right here.
Yeah,
I got a good.
You can do it.
Absolutely. And you just walk. You're like, that's how I just start every show. He's like, God, he has to do this every time. It takes like 3 minutes. In the left corner, Tony Gladstone. I want to do it like his brother does, though. Is it Michael or the other one that does the UFC? Which one does the UFC? Because I think Michael Buffer was the guy who did WWF, and then his younger brother
does UFC.
UFC, yeah. So, but the UFC guy, I love how he fucking says last names. He'll be like, Anderson Silva, like the fucking crazy, like Silva. Like he's fucking having a fucking stroke.
His inflection is amazing.
He just screams for the last name. He just screamed.
His intros are iconic enough that he's in that realm of some of those guys, like his brother that did WWF. Right. Fucking like, I don't know, puts it up there. I love it.
He did that. he did his brother, but he added the wrinkle into it with the fucking Henderson Silva, like the crazy ass like. Yeah.
I just want to find out how much it would be to get him for like 10 minutes to get a couple of takes on a voicemail recording.
Dude, I bet so much money. $700 or $800 for real. You might be able to contact his agent but I bet he doesn't do that just because like his voice is literally an asset that he doesn't probably give out for like less than like $1,000. We have to be like $1,000, and all we do is just run his sound clips all the time. Like just make him say ridiculous shit and then just do it.
No, I just wanted to record my voicemail.
That's it. You just play. He's not home today. Yeah, just that's funny.
You've reached the voicemail of Tony Gladstone.
Gladstone. Jesus. Sounds like his voice is gone on the end of it. It's great.
All right, man. Well, it has been a pleasure. As always, don't forget, everybody watching, we will be live Thursday night on First Generation Dad Facebook page, as well as the Pinfall Stream YouTube and Twitch page, talking about the Will Smith situation. And then you can catch us live on the Sports Report next Monday at 10 p.m. Eastern right here on the Pinfall Network. And then again, for Sports Report After Dark at 11:30 Eastern. For my co-host, Dan the Dick Warner, I am Seven. Thank you for joining us, everybody, and have a good night.
Nate, eBay, get with me, bruh. Top rated seller. Woo!
I need to hire somebody new.